I bought my boyfriend a Hellcat for his birthday, and he said, "That's not what I asked for. I asked for a three-way with your best friend because she's prettier." When his friend stood up for me, he laughed and said, "Let's be honest, she's no Sydney Sweeney." I was broken. I cried. But now I'm thriving, and he's sending me desperate texts and flowers every day. I met Tyler during my senior year of college. I was a mess at the time. My parents weren't around, and I spent most days alone in my apartment staring at Netflix but not really watching. I felt invisible, empty, like I was destined to be alone. Tyler showed up right when I needed someone the most, and he noticed me. He'd say, "You're so cute when you blush." And even though it made me uncomfortable, it felt good to be seen. At first, Tyler seemed perfect. He texted constantly, called me beautiful nonstop, and kept saying we were soulmates. It felt like a fairy tale. When he told me no one else would love you like me, I believed it. But looking back now, I see what was actually happening. He saw I was broken, insecure, and used that against me. He knew I had nowhere to go, so when things got toxic, I stayed. It didn't happen overnight. Little insults turned into bigger ones. Jokes became jabs. If I tried to talk about how he hurt me, he'd sigh and say, "I'm still here, aren't I?" He always said I should be grateful for him. And I believed him. I genuinely thought I couldn't do better. But things changed on his 28th birthday. I'd saved forever to buy him this expensive car he'd been talking about forever, a Hellcat. At dinner with all his friends, I handed him the keys. I expected him to freak with excitement, but instead he just said, "That's not what I asked for. I asked for a three-way with your best friend Jenna because she's prettier." Everyone laughed awkwardly, and I joined them. But Tyler's face told me he was serious. One of his buddies actually tried sticking up for me. He said, "Tyler, man, OP is very pretty, you lucked out. I don't know what you're on about." For a second, I felt good, but Tyler just laughed and said, "Thanks for trying to cheer me up, but let's be honest, she's no Sydney Sweeney." My chest went cold. Tears started forming in my eyes, but I didn't argue. I ate the dinner in silence, knowing right then it would be the last birthday I spent with him. Soon after, I started therapy, and for the first time ever, someone told me I deserved to be treated with kindness. That changed everything. It also ignited something in me, a desire for revenge. Revenge for the broken girl Tyler wrapped around his finger. And so I quietly started taking notes about him. Like when we took a weekend trip and he begged me to let him hook up with Jenna, saying, "What happened to girls supporting girls?" I noted it. When I finally talked to her about it, she shocked me. She broke down and confessed that Tyler made passes at her multiple times, and it turns out she wasn't the only one. The more we asked around, the more we heard disturbing stories about Tyler. Girls he'd tried to pressure back in college, friendships he'd ruined behind everyone's back. But I said nothing yet. I stayed quiet, biding my time. And part of that bidding was making Tyler's dream come true. One thing about Tyler is he loved being center of attention. His birthday was coming up, and a few months before it, he told me I had to plan a rooftop celebration for him, complete with catered food and expensive champagne. I remember smiling, nodding like a perfect girlfriend, and saying yes. As expected, he was thrilled. But what he didn't know is that he was about to learn one of life's lessons. Be careful what you wish for. On the day, over 70 people showed up. Family, friends, co-workers, exes he insisted were just friends. He even told them all he organized the party himself, and I just let him bask in it, at least until the toast. I stood next to Tyler for it, smiling wide as I could. "I have a surprise for everyone," I announced. "The surprise is under you." I gestured to these black gift bags placed under every seat. "Go ahead and open them." Everyone laughed, thinking it was some cute party favor. But the laughs faded pretty fast, because inside each bag was a printed document titled, "Things Tyler Says When He Thinks No One's Listening." Each page held stories, detailed testimonials from girls he'd manipulated, harassed, lied to, or even assaulted. And that wasn't it. There was a section called, "To His Family." There, I'd included all the horrible things Tyler said behind their backs. His sister's eyes widened as she read how Tyler called her a barren bitch who thinks she's special because she reads books. His mom dropped the booklet when she saw Tyler describe her as only useful for her cooking. His dad looked stunned at Tyler's line about how he'd spit on his grave if he stopped giving him money. The rooftop went silent, and slowly all eyes turned to Tyler. His confident smirk vanished completely, his face white as a sheet. Everyone he'd ever known stared at him with disgust. Friendships collapsed right there, and his family stood there looking betrayed and devastated. And all while that was happening, I picked up my purse, smiled, and walked away. Or I should say, I tried. Because next thing I knew, Tyler grabbed my shoulder. Hard. "Where are you going?" I froze, suddenly aware that I might have miscalculated. The look in his eyes was something I'd never seen before. Pure rage mixed with humiliation. His fingers dug into my shoulder, and for a moment I was terrified of what might happen next. I felt my body tense up as Tyler's grip tightened on my shoulder. The rooftop had gone completely silent. Everyone was watching us now, their eyes wide with shock. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, but I refused to show fear. Not anymore. "I'm leaving," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the trembling I felt inside. "We're done." Tyler's face contorted with rage. He yanked me closer and hissed in my ear so only I could hear, "You think you can humiliate me like this and just walk away?" Before I could respond, I felt someone step between us. It was Keith, Tyler's coworker who had always been nice to me at company events. He gently but firmly removed Tyler's hand from my shoulder. "That's enough, man," Keith said. "Let her go." Tyler looked around wildly, suddenly aware that everyone was watching. His parents stood frozen, the booklet still in their hands. His sister was crying quietly. His friends looked uncomfortable, shifting their weight from foot to foot, unsure what to do. "This is all lies," Tyler announced loudly, trying to regain control of the situation. "She's making this up because I was going to break up with her." No one said anything. The silence was deafening. I took advantage of the moment to slip away, hurrying toward the elevator. I heard footsteps behind me and tensed, thinking it was Tyler, but it was Jenna. She put her arm around me as we rode down together. "Holy shit," she whispered. "Are you okay?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure if that was true. The adrenaline was starting to wear off, and I was shaking. We made it to my car, and Jenna insisted on driving me home. I was too rattled to argue. When we got to my apartment, I realized I couldn't go inside. Tyler and I lived together. He had keys. I suddenly felt very stupid for not thinking this through better. "You can stay with me tonight," Jenna offered. "We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." I grabbed some essentials from the apartment while Jenna waited in the car, keeping watch. I was terrified Tyler would show up, but I managed to get in and out quickly. I took my laptop, some clothes, important documents, and a framed photo of my grandparents. Everything else could wait. That night at Jenna's place, my phone exploded with messages. Some were from mutual friends asking if I was okay. Others were from Tyler, alternating between rage and apologies. "You're dead to me," followed by, "Baby, please, I'm so sorry, I need you." I turned my phone off and tried to sleep on Jenna's couch, but my mind kept racing. The next morning, I woke up to knocking. Jenna was already up, peering through the peephole. "It's Tyler," she whispered. "He looks awful." My stomach dropped. "Don't answer it." "I wasn't planning to," she said, "but I'm calling the police if he doesn't leave soon." Tyler kept knocking for about 10 minutes, calling my name through the door. Eventually, we heard him slump against the wall outside. He started crying loudly, saying he was sorry and he'd change. It was the same cycle of abuse I'd seen so many times before, just more desperate now. After what felt like forever, he finally left. I peeked out the window and watched him drive away, his car swerving slightly. He was probably hammered. "We need a plan," Jenna said, making coffee. "You can't stay here forever, and you definitely can't go back to him." I nodded, feeling overwhelmed. I need to get my stuff from the apartment and find a new place to live, and probably get a restraining order. Jenna's boyfriend Marcus came over later that day to help us strategize. He worked in real estate and said he knew of a small studio apartment that was available immediately. It wasn't fancy, but it was in a secure building with a doorman. The rent was more than I wanted to pay, but I needed safety more than savings right now. I'll go with you to get your things, Marcus offered. Tyler won't try anything if I'm there. I wasn't so sure about that, but I appreciated the offer. We decided to go the next day during work hours when Tyler would likely be at his dad's construction company. That night, I got a call from Tyler's sister, Rachel. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. I just wanted to say I believe you, she said when I picked up. Tyler's always been difficult, but I never knew how bad it was with you. I'm sorry. I thanked her, surprised by the support. She told me Tyler had shown up at their parents' house after the party, hammered and raging. His dad had refused to let him in, telling him to come back when he was sober. It was the first time anyone in his family had stood up to him. The next day, Marcus, Jenna, and I went to my apartment to get my things. I was nervous the whole drive over, scanning every car we passed for Tyler's black Audi. When we pulled up to the building, I was relieved not to see his car in the parking lot. My relief was short-lived. As soon as I unlocked the door, I knew something was wrong. The apartment was trashed. Furniture overturned, dishes smashed, clothes strewn everywhere. My heart sank when I saw my laptop, the one I'd left behind, not my main one, smashed to pieces on the floor. Jesus, Marcus muttered, looking around. We should call the police. I shook my head. Let's just get my stuff and go. We worked quickly, filling trash bags with whatever clothes hadn't been destroyed. Most of my things were ruined. Photos ripped up, books torn apart, even my makeup smashed and smeared on the bathroom mirror. Tyler had written bitch in my lipstick across the glass. I was grabbing the last of my intact belongings when the door flew open. Tyler stood there, eyes bloodshot, hair unwashed. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. What the fuck are you doing? He demanded, swaying slightly. Marcus stepped in front of me. We're just getting her things, Tyler. Then we're leaving. Tyler laughed, a hollow sound that sent chills down my spine. Oh, you're with him now? That was fast. I'm with Jenna, man, Marcus said calmly. We're just helping her move out. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Tyler's eyes narrowed. This is my apartment too. You can't just take stuff. It's my stuff, Tyler, I said, finding my voice. I paid for it. He took a step toward me, and Marcus moved to block him. For a tense moment, I thought Tyler might try to fight him, but then he just laughed again. Take your shot, he said. It's all garbage anyway, just like you. I felt a flash of the old pain, the familiar feeling of being worthless that Tyler had cultivated in me for years. But then I remembered what Dr. Winters had told me. His words only had power if I believed them. We're done here, I said, picking up the last bag. Goodbye, Tyler. As we walked out, Tyler called after me. This isn't over. You think you can humiliate me and just walk away? I made you. No one wanted you before me. I didn't look back. The new apartment was tiny but clean, with a security system and a doorman named Gavin who took his job very seriously. Marcus helped me set up some basic furniture. A bed, a desk, a small table with 2 chairs. Jenna brought over houseplants to brighten the space. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and Tyler couldn't get to me here. Or so I thought. The calls started that night, first from Tyler's number, which I blocked, then from unknown numbers. I blocked those too. Then the emails began, sometimes apologetic, sometimes threatening. I created a folder for them all, documenting everything in case I needed it later. A week after moving into my new place, I came home from work to find flowers outside my door. No card, but I knew they were from Tyler. I gave them to Gavin at the front desk, who promised to turn away any deliveries from Tyler in the future. How did he even find my address? I asked Jenna over the phone that night. I don't know, she said, sounding worried. Did you tell anyone at work? I hadn't, but I realized Tyler knew where I worked. He could have followed me home. The thought made me feel sick. The next day, I filed for a restraining order. The process was frustrating. The police officer who took my statement seemed bored, like he'd heard it all before. Has he physically hurt you? He asked, barely looking up from his computer. He grabbed me hard enough to leave bruises, I said, showing him the fading marks on my shoulder. And he destroyed all my belongings. The officer nodded, typing slowly. That's destruction of property, but it's a shared residence, so it gets complicated. And the grabbing. Well, without witnesses. I felt my frustration rising. There were witnesses at the party, dozens of them. He sighed. Look, I'll file the report, but these things take time. In the meantime, document everything. Change your routines. Be aware of your surroundings. I left feeling defeated. The temporary restraining order would take at least a week to process, and even then, it was just a piece of paper. If Tyler wanted to hurt me, a court order wouldn't physically stop him. That weekend, I met up with Dr. Winters for an emergency session. I told her everything that had happened since the party. I'm proud of you for leaving, she said. That takes enormous courage, but I'm concerned about your safety. She helped me create a safety plan, changing my routes to work, varying my schedule, always letting someone know where I was. She also suggested I join a support group for survivors of domestic abuse, but he never hit me, I said, feeling like an imposter. Abuse isn't just physical, she reminded me. What you experienced was emotional and psychological abuse. It's just as damaging, sometimes more so. I went to my first support group meeting the following Tuesday. It was in a community center downtown, in a small room with uncomfortable chairs arranged in a circle. I almost turned around and left, but a woman named Virginia smiled at me from across the room, and somehow that gave me the courage to stay. Listening to other women's stories was eye-opening. Some had experienced physical violence, others psychological torture, many both. But the patterns were the same. Isolation, control, degradation. For the first time, I didn't feel crazy or oversensitive. What Tyler had done to me was real abuse, and I wasn't alone. After the meeting, Virginia introduced herself properly. She was older than me, maybe in her 50s, with kind eyes and a quiet strength about her. First meetings are tough, she said. How are you holding up? I admitted I was struggling, especially with the fear that Tyler would find me or hurt me somehow. Have you considered self-defense classes? She asked. They helped me feel more in control after I left my ex-husband. I hadn't, but the idea appealed to me. Virginia gave me the information for a women's self-defense course taught by her friend Angela. I signed up that night. The classes were twice a week in a small gym near my new apartment. Angela was a former military woman with short gray hair and muscles that made me feel both intimidated and safe. She taught us practical moves, how to break a hold, where to strike to incapacitate an attacker, how to use our voices as weapons. Your voice is your first line of defense, she told us during the first class. A loud, firm no can sometimes be enough to make an attacker think twice. I practiced yelling no until my throat was raw, imagining Tyler's face as I did. It felt good to be doing something proactive instead of just hiding and hoping he'd leave me alone. But Tyler wasn't giving up. 2 weeks after I moved out, he showed up at my workplace. I was in a meeting when the receptionist called me. There's someone here to see you, she said. He says it's urgent. A Tyler Kovach? My blood ran cold. I can't see him. Please tell him to leave. He's being quite insistent, she said, sounding uncomfortable. Janet, he's my ex. We have a bad history. If he won't leave, please call security. I heard Tyler's voice in the background getting louder. I just need 5 minutes. Tell her it's important. I hung up and texted my boss, explaining the situation briefly. He immediately called security, who escorted Tyler out. I watched from the window of our conference room as Tyler argued with the security guards in the parking lot, gesturing wildly. Eventually, he got in his car and sped away, tires squealing. My boss, Richard, was understanding. Take the rest of the day off, he said, and let me know if there's anything else we can do. I was grateful for his support, but embarrassed that my personal problems had spilled into my professional life. I updated my restraining order application with this new incident, hoping it would speed up the process. That night, I got a text text from an unknown number. You can't hide from me forever. We need to talk. I didn't respond, just added it to my documentation folder, but I couldn't sleep, jumping at every sound outside my window. The next morning, I was exhausted and jumpy. The restraining order was finally granted a few days later. I felt a small sense of relief when I got the official notice, but I knew it was just a piece of paper. Tyler had already shown he didn't respect boundaries. I was right to be concerned. The very next day after the restraining order was served, I came home to find my apartment door slightly ajar. My heart raced as I backed away, calling Gavin from the hallway. "Did you let anyone up to my apartment today?" I asked when he answered. "No, ma'am," he said. "Is something wrong?" "My door is open. I think someone broke in." Gavin called the police while I waited in the lobby, shaking. When they arrived, 2 officers went up to check my apartment while I stayed with Gavin. "All clear," one of them reported when they came back down. "But someone definitely forced the lock. You might want to stay somewhere else tonight." I called Jenna, who immediately offered her couch again. The police took my statement, but without cameras in the hallway, there was no proof it was Tyler. They promised to drive by my building more frequently for the next few days, but I could tell they didn't consider it a baked priority. "What about the restraining order?" I asked. "He's not supposed to come near my home. We'll talk to him," one officer said. But without proof it was him specifically. I was starting to see a pattern. Without concrete evidence, the system couldn't or wouldn't protect me. I stayed with Jenna for 3 nights while my landlord installed better locks and a small security camera outside my door. When I finally returned to my apartment, I felt like a prisoner, checking the locks constantly, jumping at every noise, sleeping with a baseball bat beside my bed. The support group became my lifeline during this time. Virginia and the other women understood my fear in a way no one else could. They shared their own strategies for staying safe and rebuilding their lives. "The hardest part is the hypervigilance," said one woman named Alice. "Always looking over your shoulder, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. It gets better with time, but it changes you." I knew what she meant. I found myself scanning every room I entered for exits, assessing every man who resembled Tyler as a potential threat. I changed my hair color from blonde to brown, started wearing glasses instead of contacts, anything to look different if Tyler was watching from a distance. The self-defense classes helped channel my fear into something productive. Angela pushed us hard, making us practice scenarios until the movements became muscle memory. "Your body will remember even if your mind panics," she told us. 3 weeks after the break-in, I was leaving work late. The parking garage was nearly empty, my footsteps echoing between concrete pillars. I was almost to my car when I heard someone behind me. I turned to see Tyler stepping out from behind a support column. "We need to talk," he said, his voice eerily calm. I felt a surge of fear, but also anger. "You're violating the restraining order," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You need to leave now." He took a step closer. "Not until you hear me out. You ruined my life. My dad fired me. My friends won't talk to me. All because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." I backed up until I hit my car. "That's not my fault, Tyler. You did those things, not me." His face darkened. "You humiliated me in front of everyone I know. You think I'm just going to let that go?" I remembered Angela's lessons. I stood straighter, planted my feet. "Yes, that's exactly what you're going to do. It's over, Tyler. Leave me alone." He lunged forward suddenly, grabbing my wrist. "It's over when I say it's over." Without thinking, I brought my knee up hard between his legs. He doubled over, gasping, and I used the moment to break his grip the way Angela had taught us. I ran for the elevator, fumbling for my phone to call 911. Tyler recovered faster than I expected. He caught up to me just as the elevator doors were opening, shoving me inside and against the wall. His forearm pressed against my throat, not quite choking me, but making it hard to breathe. "You think you're so smart," he hissed. "You think you can make a fool out of me and get away with it?" I couldn't speak with his arm against my throat, but I remembered another of Angela's lessons. I brought my hands up between his arms and pushed outward sharply, breaking his hold. Then I drove the heel of my palm up toward his nose, not quite connecting, but forcing him to back up. The elevator doors started to close, and Tyler stuck his foot out to stop them. I used that moment to slip past him, back into the parking garage. I ran toward the security office, screaming for help. Tyler chased after me, catching the back of my jacket. I spun around, using the momentum to break free, and kept running. The security guard heard my screams and came out of his office, radio in hand. "Hey!" he shouted at Tyler. "Stop right there!" Tyler froze, looking from the guard to me and back again. Then he turned and ran toward the exit. The guard called the police while I sat in his office, shaking uncontrollably. This time, there was a witness. This time, there would be consequences. Or so I thought. The police took my statement and the security guards. They reviewed the garage's security footage, which clearly showed Tyler assaulting me in the elevator. They promised to arrest him for violating the restraining order and for assault. But when I called to follow up the next day, I was told Tyler couldn't be located. He wasn't at his apartment. He wasn't at his parents' house. He had seemingly vanished. "We'll keep looking," the officer assured me. "But until we find him, you should be extra careful." I felt like I was living in a horror movie, never knowing when the monster might appear. I took a week off work, too afraid to go to the parking garage again. Richard was understanding, letting me work remotely. During that week, I barely left Jenna's apartment, where I was staying again. I jumped at every noise, checked the locks compulsively, and slept with the lights on when I managed to sleep at all. The support group rallied around me. Virginia brought groceries so I wouldn't have to go out. Alice, who worked in IT, helped me check my devices for tracking software and showed me how to better secure my online accounts. Another woman from the group, Hayden, whose ex had stalked her forever, shared tips on varying routines and watching for surveillance. "The not knowing is the worst part," Hayden said. "But remember, you've already survived the hardest part, leaving him. You can survive this too." I tried to believe her, but the constant fear was wearing me down. Dr. Winters suggested medication to help with my anxiety and sleep, which I reluctantly accepted. The pills helped dull the edge of my panic, but I still felt like I was living on borrowed time. A week turned into 2, then 3. No sign of Tyler. The police seemed to lose interest, telling me they'd keep an eye out, but offering little concrete help. I slowly started resuming normal activities, going back to work, shopping for groceries, even meeting friends for coffee occasionally. Just when I started to think maybe it was really over, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was simply, "I'm not done with you." The email contained a photo of me, clearly taken that day, walking into my office building. I was wearing the blue dress I'd put on that morning, carrying the coffee I'd bought on the way to work. The message below the photo read, "I see you, always." I forwarded it to the police officer handling my case, but his response was frustratingly vague. "We'll look into it, but it's hard to prove who sent it. Keep documenting everything." That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I found another email waiting. This one had a photo of me at the coffee shop near my apartment from the previous weekend. I was sitting with Jenna, laughing at something. The angle suggested it was taken from outside, through the window. "He's been watching me for weeks," I told Dr. Winters during our session that day. "The police won't do anything until he actually hurts me, and by then it might be too late." She looked troubled. "This is stalking, plain and simple. The restraining order should cover this behavior." "Should, but doesn't seem to," I said bitterly. "Not unless they can catch him in the act." Dr. Winters helped me brainstorm options. I could move again, maybe to another city. I could try to get a more strongly worded restraining order. I could hire a private security guard, though I could barely afford my rent as it was. In the end, we decided on a 2-pronged approach. First, I would be even more vigilant about my safety, varying my routes, always being with someone when possible, carrying pepper spray. Second, I would try to gather evidence that Tyler was the one stalking me, something concrete enough that the police would have to act. The second part was trickier. Alice suggested setting up a honeypot, deliberately creating a pattern that Tyler might observe, then watching to see if he took the bait. It was risky, but I was desperate. it. I started going to the same coffee shop every Tuesday and Thursday morning, sitting at the same table by the window. Jenna or Marcus would sit at another table, watching for anyone suspicious. We did this for 2 weeks with no sign of Tyler. Then, on the third Tuesday, Marcus texted me from his observation point across the street. Guy in blue hoodie, sunglasses, watching you from the bookstore. Looks like Tyler. My heart raced, but I forced myself to act normal, sipping my coffee and scrolling through my phone. Marcus kept updating me. The man in the hoodie had moved to a bench with a clear view of the coffee shop. He appeared to be taking photos with his phone. I texted the police officer who had been handling my case, Officer Reed. He responded quickly, saying he'd sent a patrol car. 10 minutes later, 2 officers approached the man on the bench. From inside the coffee shop, I watched as they talked to him. He showed them something on his phone, gesturing animatedly. Then, to my horror, the officers just nodded and walked away, leaving him there. I texted Officer Reed again. They just left him there. What's happening? His response made my blood boil. He says he's just a photography student taking urban shots for a class project. Without clear evidence he's targeting you specifically, there's not much we can do. I wanted to scream. The man was clearly Tyler. Marcus confirmed it. But with the hoodie and sunglasses, the officers who didn't know him personally couldn't be certain. And apparently, taking photos in a public place wasn't enough to constitute stalking, even with the threatening emails. That night, I got another email. Nice try with the cops. Better luck next time. I felt defeated. The system that was supposed to protect me was failing at every turn. Tyler was winning, forcing me to live in constant fear while he faced no consequences. The next day, I went to the support group feeling lower than I had in weeks. I told them about the failed attempt to catch Tyler. The police won't help, I said, fighting back tears. He's going to keep doing this until he gets bored or until he hurts me. Virginia put her hand on mine. Then we need to make him stop. How? I asked. I've tried everything legal. The women exchanged looks. Alice spoke first. Sometimes the legal system fails us. Sometimes we have to protect ourselves. What they proposed wasn't illegal exactly, but it definitely wasn't what the police would recommend. They suggested creating a trap for Tyler, not to hurt him, but to gather irrefutable evidence of his stalking and harassment. If the police won't help until they have proof, then we'll get them proof they can't ignore, Virginia said firmly. The plan was risky, but I was out of options. Tyler had taken so much from me already. My sense of safety, my peace of mind, my ability to trust. I refused to let him take my future too. Over the next week, we prepared carefully. Alice set up cameras in my apartment and helped me install special software on my phone to record calls automatically. Virginia and Angela taught me additional self-defense moves specifically for close quarter situations. Hayden helped me create a detailed documentation system for every interaction with Tyler. Then we set the trap. I posted on social media, accounts I knew Tyler monitored, that I would be attending a friend's gallery opening alone on Friday night. In reality, the gallery was a small empty retail space that Marcus had access to through his real estate connections. We set it up to look like an art show, with Virginia, Alice, and Hayden posing as attendees. The space had multiple exits and was fitted with hidden cameras. Angela would be watching from a van outside, ready to intervene if things went wrong. The plan was to get Tyler on camera violating the restraining order and making threats, evidence the police couldn't ignore. Friday came, and I felt sick with nerves as I got ready. I wore a wire under my dress, another layer of protection and evidence gathering. As I drove to the fake gallery, I kept checking my rearview mirror, half expecting to see Tyler's car following me. The opening was set to start at 7 p.m. By 7:30, several people were there. The support group women, Marcus, Jenna, and a few friends who'd agreed to help. The atmosphere was tense despite our attempts at normal conversation. At 7:45, my phone buzzed with a text from Angela in the van. Blue Audi just parked across the street. It's him. I took a deep breath and positioned myself near the front of the gallery, looking at a painting as if absorbed in it. The door opened, and I felt the air change before I even turned around. Tyler had arrived. He looked different, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes and several days' worth of stubble. He was wearing the same blue hoodie from the coffee shop incident. His eyes locked on me immediately. Fancy meeting you here, he said, his voice carrying in the suddenly quiet space. I turned to face him, forcing myself to stand tall. You need to leave, Tyler. You're violating the restraining order. He laughed, a hollow sound that echoed off the bare walls. Always with the restraining order. Has that piece of paper protected you so far? I was acutely aware of the camera's recording, of the wire under my dress. Every word he said was evidence. What do you want? I asked, keeping my voice steady. He stepped closer, and I had to fight the urge to back away. I want you to understand what you've done to me. You destroyed my life, my reputation, everything. You did that yourself, I said. I just told the truth. His face darkened. The truth? You think those people needed to know our private business? You think my family needed to read that stuff? They deserve to know who you really are. He moved even closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. And who am I exactly? A manipulator, a liar, a man who enjoys hurting women. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You have no idea what I'm capable of. That was it, the threat we needed on record. But Tyler wasn't finished. I've been watching you, he continued, seemingly unaware or uncaring of the other people in the gallery. I know where you go, who you see. I know you're staying at Jenna's again. I know you take those pathetic self-defense classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Each revelation sent a chill through me, but I stood my ground. And yet here I am, living my life despite you. You don't control me anymore, Tyler. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. Don't I? Before I could react, Virginia appeared beside us. Is everything okay here? She asked calmly. Tyler glared at her. Mind your own business, lady. She is my business, Virginia said, her voice steel beneath the politeness. And you're hurting her. Tyler looked down at his hand on my wrist, as if surprised to find it there. He let go abruptly. This isn't over, he said to me, backing toward the door. Not by a long shot. As he left, I let out the breath I'd been holding. The plan had worked. We had clear evidence of Tyler violating the restraining order, making threats, and admitting to stalking me. Angela confirmed from the van that everything had been recorded clearly. The next morning, I took the evidence to the police station, insisting on speaking to Officer Reed's supervisor. The sergeant reviewed the recordings with growing concern. This is definitely enough for an arrest warrant, he said finally. He's admitted to stalking you, threatened you, and violated the restraining order on camera. We'll pick him up today. I should have felt relieved, but I knew Tyler well enough to be worried. If he felt cornered, he might become even more dangerous. What if you can't find him? I asked. He disappeared last time. The sergeant assured me they would find him, but I wasn't convinced. I went back to Jenna's apartment and waited anxiously for news. Hours passed with no update. Evening came, and still nothing. I jumped every time my phone buzzed, but it was never the police. Then, just after midnight, someone knocked on Jenna's door. We both froze, looking at each other in alarm. Jenna crept to the peephole and looked out. Police, she whispered, relief evident in her voice. It was Officer Reed and another officer I didn't recognize. They looked grim. We've been trying to locate Tyler Kovac, Officer Reed said. His apartment is empty and his car is gone. His parents haven't seen him in weeks. My stomach dropped. So he's still out there. The other officer nodded. For now. But we have an arrest warrant, and his description has been circulated to all patrol officers. It's just a matter of time. But time was exactly what I didn't have. Every day Tyler remained free was another day I had to live in fear. What am I supposed to do in the meantime? I asked. He knows where I work, where I stay, my routines. He's been watching me for weeks. Officer Reed looked uncomfortable. We can increase patrols in your area, but you can't protect me 24/7. I finished for him. I understand. After they left, Jenna and I sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she spoke. Maybe you should go stay with your parents for a while, just until they catch him. I shook my head. My parents live in different states now, and they have their own problems. Besides, I can't put my life on hold indefinitely. I have a job, friends, friends, therapy. I can't just disappear. Then what are you going to do? I thought about everything I'd learned in the past few months. From therapy, from the support group, from Angela's self-defense classes. I thought about how far I'd come from the broken, insecure girl Tyler had manipulated. I'm going to stop running. I said finally. I'm going to take my life back. The next day, I went to work as usual. I attended my therapy session with Dr. Winters. I went to the support group meeting. I was hypervigilant, constantly scanning for Tyler, but I refused to hide. A week passed with no sign of him. Then another. The police checked in periodically, but they had no leads. Tyler had vanished again, but the threat of his return hung over me like a shadow. I moved back to my apartment with new security measures in place. Alice helped me install better cameras and a more sophisticated alarm system. Angela gave me additional self-defense training. Virginia and Hayden took turns staying with me so I wouldn't be alone. Slowly, I started to reclaim my life. I changed my hair back to blonde, my natural color that Tyler had always criticized. I bought clothes he would have hated. I went out with friends, laughed loudly in public, took up space in the world, but I never let my guard down completely. I knew Tyler was still out there, watching, waiting. The question wasn't if he would return, but when. And when he did, I would be ready. The waiting was the worst part. Every day I woke up wondering if this would be the day Tyler would reappear. I'd check my security cameras first thing each morning, scan the street from my window, and take different routes to work. It was exhausting living like this, constantly looking over my shoulder. 3 weeks after the gallery trap, I was starting to feel almost normal again. The police still had no leads on Tyler's whereabouts, but I refused to put my life on hold any longer. I'd even started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee with a guy named Jordan from my building who'd asked me out after we kept running into each other in the laundry room. You seem jumpy, Jordan said during our second coffee date. We were sitting outside a cafe near our apartment building, enjoying the spring weather. I gave him the abbreviated version of the Tyler situation, watching his face carefully for his reaction. Some guys got weird when they heard about my crazy ex situation. That's seriously messed up, Jordan said, looking genuinely concerned. No wonder you're always checking over your shoulder. I appreciated his understanding, but I still wasn't ready to fully trust anyone new. Dr. Winters had warned me that healing would take time, especially when it came to relationships. The next day was Tuesday, which meant support group. I started looking forward to these meetings. The women there understood what I was going through in a way no one else could. Virginia had become something of a mentor to me, and I admired her strength after everything she'd been through. Any news about Tyler? Alice asked as we settled into our usual circle of uncomfortable chairs. I shook my head. Nothing. It's like he vanished. That's good, right? Hayden suggested. Maybe he finally moved on. Virginia looked skeptical. Men like that don't just move on. They retreat, regroup, and come back when you least expect it. Her words sent a chill through me, but I knew she was right. Tyler wasn't the type to admit defeat. After the meeting, I stopped at the grocery store on my way home. I was examining avocados when I felt someone watching me. I looked up, scanning the store, but didn't see anyone suspicious. Still, the feeling persisted as I finished my shopping and headed to the checkout. In the parking lot, I was extra vigilant, keys clutched between my fingers the way Angela had taught us. I loaded my groceries quickly and got into my car, locking the doors immediately. As I backed out of my space, I noticed a car at the far end of the lot, a blue Audi that looked just like Tyler's. My heart raced as I tried to get a better look, but the car was too far away to see the driver clearly. I debated driving closer to check, but decided against it. If it was Tyler, confronting him alone in a dark parking lot was the last thing I should do. I drove home taking a convoluted route, checking my rearview mirror constantly for any sign of the blue Audi. I didn't see it following me, but that didn't mean much. Tyler had proven he could track me without being obvious about it. When I got home, I told Gavin about the car I'd seen. I'll keep an extra eye out, he promised, looking concerned. Maybe take some extra walks around the building tonight. I thanked him and headed up to my apartment, double-checking that my door was locked behind me. I put away my groceries with shaking hands, then called Jenna. I think I saw him, I said as soon as she answered. Tyler? Where? Her voice was instantly alert. I told her about the blue Audi in the grocery store parking lot. Did you call the police? She asked. And tell them what? That I maybe saw a car that looks like my ex's from a distance? They already think I'm paranoid. Jenna sighed. I'm coming over. I'll bring dinner. I was grateful for the company. We ate takeout and watched a mindless comedy, trying to keep the conversation light. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. That night, I barely slept. Every noise made me jump. The building settling, a neighbor's door closing, a car passing on the street below. Around 3 a.m., I finally gave up and made some tea, sitting by my window and watching the empty street. The next morning, I dragged myself to work, exhausted but determined to maintain my routine. I was in the middle of a meeting when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Nice groceries. The avocados looked a little unripe, though. My blood ran cold. It had been Tyler in the parking lot. He'd been watching me. I excused myself from the meeting and called Officer Reed. He texted me, I said as soon as he answered. He was at the grocery store last night, watching me. Officer Reed sounded tired. Can you forward me the text? We'll try to trace the number, but if he's using a burner phone, I knew the drill by now. Without concrete evidence of an immediate threat, there wasn't much they could do. I forwarded the text anyway and went back to my meeting, trying to focus on work instead of the fear gnawing at my insides. That evening, I met Angela for an extra self-defense session. I told her about the text. He's trying to rattle you, she said as we practiced breaking holds. He wants you scared, off balance. Well, it's working, I admitted, wiping sweat from my forehead. Angela stopped and looked at me seriously. Listen to me. You're stronger than you think. You've already survived the worst of what he did to you. Don't let him back in your head now. I nodded, trying to believe her. We practiced for another hour, focusing on scenarios where someone grabbed me from behind or cornered me in a confined space. By the end, I felt physically drained but mentally stronger. The next few days passed without incident. No more texts, no sightings of the blue Audi. I started to wonder if Tyler was just toying with me, popping up occasionally to remind me he was still out there. Then Friday came. I was working late, finishing a presentation for Monday. The office was nearly empty, just me and a couple of people from the IT department working on the other side of the building. Around 8 p.m., I decided to call it a night. The parking garage was dimly lit and eerily quiet. I walked quickly to my car, keys ready, constantly looking around. I was almost there when I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, but saw no one. Hello? I called out, my voice echoing between concrete pillars. No answer. I hurried to my car, unlocked it with shaking hands, and got in, immediately locking the doors again. As I started the engine, my headlights illuminated a figure standing about 20 feet away. Tyler. He was thinner than before. His clothes rumpled like he'd been sleeping in them, but his eyes were the same, cold and calculating as he stared at me through the windshield. I put the car in reverse, ready to get out of there, but Tyler stepped forward holding up his phone. He typed something, and a second later my phone buzzed with a text. We need to talk. One conversation and I'll leave you alone forever. I knew better than to believe him, but I also knew he wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. And right now, he was blocking my exit. I texted back, I'm calling the police. He responded immediately. Go ahead. I'll be gone before they arrive. Then you'll never know when I might show up again. He had a point. The police had been trying to find him for weeks with no success. If he disappeared again, I'd be back to dumping at shadows. I made a decision. I texted, fine. One conversation. In public. Tomorrow at noon. The coffee shop on Main Street. Tyler smiled as he read my text, then nodded and backed away, disappearing between parked cars. I sat there for a few minutes, breathing hard, before I felt safe enough to drive away. As soon as I got home, I called Virginia. He wants to meet, I told her. Tomorrow at noon. Absolutely not, she said immediately. It's too dangerous. I'll be in public in broad daylight, and I'm tired of living like this, Virginia. Maybe if I hear him out, he'll finally leave me alone. Virginia was quiet for a moment. You're not going alone, she said finally. I'm coming with you, and so is Angela. I agreed, relieved to have backup. We made a plan. Virginia would sit at a nearby table pretending to read. Angela would be outside, watching through the window. Both would record everything. That night, I couldn't sleep again, my mind racing with all the things Tyler might say or do. Would he apologize? Threaten me? Try to convince me to take him back? None of the scenarios I imagined ended well. The next morning, I dressed carefully. Jeans and a sweater, comfortable shoes I could run in if needed. I tucked my pepper spray into my pocket and headed to the coffee shop an hour early, wanting to be there first to choose my seat. Virginia arrived shortly after, giving me a reassuring nod as she took a table nearby. Angela texted that she was in position outside. All we could do now was wait. At exactly noon, Tyler walked in. He looked better than he had last night. He'd shaved, changed clothes, even combed his hair. He spotted me immediately and came over, sliding into the seat across from me. Thanks for coming, he said, his voice softer than I expected. Say what you need to say, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Tyler leaned forward. I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About what happened. I know I messed up. I almost laughed. Messed up? You stalked me, threatened me, and made my life hell for months. That's a little more than messing up. He had the decency to look ashamed. I know, and I'm sorry. I was in a bad place after the party. Everything I'd built just collapsed. My family, my friends, my job. I blamed you. It wasn't my fault, I said firmly. You did those things, not me. Tyler nodded slowly. You're right. That's what I wanted to tell you. I'm getting help now. Therapy, anger management. I'm trying to be better. I studied his face, looking for signs of the old Tyler. The manipulation, the barely contained rage, but he seemed different somehow. Humbled. I'm glad you're getting help, I said cautiously. But that doesn't change what you did. I know, he said. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm leaving town. For good. My cousin got me a job in Seattle. I start next week. Relief washed over me, but I was still skeptical. Why should I believe you? Tyler reached into his pocket and pulled out a plane ticket. One way to Seattle, leaving tomorrow morning. I looked at the ticket. It seemed real. His name, the flight information, tomorrow's date. I won't contact you again, he continued. I promise. I just needed to see you one last time, to apologize face to face. Part of me wanted to believe him. The idea of Tyler gone for good, living on the opposite coast, was incredibly appealing, but I'd been fooled by him before. I appreciate the apology, I said carefully. But understand this. If you ever contact me again, if you ever come near me or my friends, I will make sure you regret it. The police have a warrant for your arrest. They're still looking for you. Tyler nodded. I know. That's another reason I'm leaving. Fresh start. He stood up, looking down at me one last time. Goodbye. I really am sorry for everything. And then he was gone, walking out of the coffee shop and out of my life. Virginia immediately came over to my table. Are you okay? She asked, putting a hand on my shoulder. I nodded, still processing what had just happened. He says he's leaving town, moving to Seattle. Virginia looked skeptical. Do you believe him? I don't know, I admitted. He seemed sincere, but he's fooled you before, she finished for me. We left the coffee shop together, meeting Angela outside. I told them both about Tyler's apparent change of heart and his plans to leave town. We should still be careful, Angela warned. Men like that don't change overnight. I agreed, but part of me hoped it was true. The thought of finally being free of Tyler's shadow was intoxicating. The next day, I checked online and confirmed that Tyler's flight had departed on schedule. I allowed myself a small measure of hope. Maybe it really was over. A week passed with no sign of Tyler. Then another. I slowly started to relax, to believe that he might actually be gone for good. I stopped checking my security cameras obsessively. I went out with friends without constantly looking over my shoulder. I even went on another date with Jordan, actually enjoying myself this time. 1 month after our coffee shop meeting, I received a letter with a Seattle postmark. My hands trembled as I opened it, fearing what might be inside. But it was just a short note. I'm keeping my promise. I hope you're happy. Goodbye for real this time. T. Enclosed was a receipt for a year's worth of sessions with a therapist in Seattle. Proof he was really there, really trying to change. I showed the letter to Dr. Winters during our next session. Do you think people can change that dramatically? I asked her. She considered the question carefully. It's possible, with the right motivation and professional help. But whether Tyler has changed or not isn't really the point. The point is that you have. She was right. The person I was now, stronger, more confident, unwilling to accept mistreatment, was nothing like the broken girl Tyler had manipulated all those years ago. I had changed, and that was what mattered. 6 months later, there was still no sign of Tyler. The police eventually closed his case, though they kept the warrant active just in case. I moved to a new apartment, not out of fear, but because I wanted a fresh start in a place that had no memories of him. The support group remained an important part of my life, but now I was often the one offering advice to newcomers, sharing my story to help others find their strength. Virginia and I became close friends, meeting for coffee weekly outside of group. Angela convinced me to help her teach self-defense classes to college students. Sometimes I still catch myself scanning rooms for exits or checking my rearview mirror more than necessary. Old habits die hard, but those moments are becoming rarer. Most days, I don't think about Tyler at all. I don't know if he really changed, if he's still in Seattle, or if I'll ever hear from him again. But I do know this. I'm no longer afraid of him. Whatever happens, I can handle it. I survived Tyler at his worst. I survived the aftermath. And in the process, I found a strength I never knew I had. That's the thing about toxic relationships. They can break you down to nothing, make you forget who you are. But if you're lucky enough to escape, to find people who truly care about you, you can rebuild yourself into someone stronger than before. I'm not the same person Tyler met in that coffee shop years ago. I'm not even the same person who planned that rooftop revenge. I'm someone new, someone who knows her worth and won't settle for less than she deserves. And that, more than anything else, is my real victory.